from the Sherpa Chalet at the top of beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia. It's a special episode of Too Many Podcasts. I'm Jim the Podcast Sherpa, and today it's a special episode where I get to speak with people from the entertainment industry. So get yourself an aisle seat, pop up some popcorn, and get a cold drink ready, and sit back. Don't crunch too loud, or else you'll miss the interview from Sherpa Screening Room. Hey there, Rebels of the Sherpalution. It's me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, and welcome back to the Too Many Podcasts edition of the Sherpa Screening Room. These are the episodes where I get to talk to people in the entertainment business. And this week, we have a director. His name is Michael Mueller. Really interesting story, and I got to spend some time chatting about his career and his upcoming movie, which will be streaming on Amazon, and it's called The E-Listers. He started in the music business and in radio, and he started making music videos to short films to his first full-length feature film. And that should be out pretty soon, so keep your eyes peeled for it. We will have information for you on the show notes. And before I talk to Michael, just want to let you know, today's podcast is being brought to you by who else? Audible, that's right, where you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. Yep, you get a free. And there's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or your MP3 player. Okay, we've got that out of the way. Now, let's spend a little time with Michael, and you'll get to hear about him and his upcoming movie. Hey there, ladies and gents. We are in the media room at the Sherpa Chalet, and I've got on video the media maven, Mad Mike Mueller.
oh man, that's
I made it 5 M's instead of 3 M's.
Yeah. Wow. I did not expect that. That is like a nickname that was given to me back in my radio internship days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of always stuck because I still do work with the person I did the internship for. But you're the first person that's addressed it or used it probably since it was given to me. So that's interesting.
Mike is my guest tonight because he's really got an interesting story here. He has probably touched any area of media that you've been in touch with too, because he's been a director, he's been a DJ, he's been an editor, film editor, he's been a website designer, he is an entrepreneur, and he's a dad, and he's actually got his first feature film coming out, and we're going to be talking about that in a little bit, but let's start a little bit from the beginning, and we'll get to know Mike now.
Yeah. So, I guess the story really starts in 2000. I moved from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Atlanta, Georgia, being young and naive and not really having any particular goal in mind. The move, just knew there was more opportunity than there was back where I grew up, especially for Milwaukee's a super blue collar town. And I just knew that wasn't my lane in life. Like I knew I wasn't going to fit into that mold. So at 20 years old, I was like, I'm going to move and see what happens. And, worst case scenario, I can always move back. And fast forward 5 years, I started doing an internship for a really, popular morning show host here in Atlanta, and it really connected me with a lot of the music industry. And I've always had a super huge passion and love for music, but I couldn't play a note to save my life. I couldn't write, I couldn't sing. So artist management just seemed like a natural fit for me at that time. And that's what I kind of pursued, dealing and working with a lot of independent artists. And with those independent artists, you learn very quickly they don't really have a budget for the media things that you need, promotional photographs, flyers, CD artwork, videos. So I invested some money into buying a camera and buying some of nothing high end, something kind of just like prosumer level, just to get us something. And, at that time, that's like when stuff really started developing. We started going to MP3s, and everything's going digital. So it finally got to a point where I had to solicit those services to artists that I wasn't necessarily managing, because you just kind of get yourself into a financial hole because it's just pouring money in and there's not really a ton of money coming out of it. So in order to offset that, I started soliciting it just as, hey, we do video, we can do package deals for video and photos and graphics or whatever. And that's really when things started to take off in that realm, because at the time when I started, there weren't a lot of people that were able to produce a high quality for a low budget. It was still very new. The DSLR phase was very new, and there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it well. So I was able to kind of, I guess, cash in on that at the time. And then it kind of just grew from there.
You did like a lot of party DJing and.
Yeah. So like along with the music industry, it kind of, I'm like, I guess the way my brain works is like, okay, so like if I get into doing club DJing and party promotions, then I can promote and also play the artist music that I'm working with. So it's kind of like always connecting the things, because they're all the 6 degrees of separation gets even smaller when you get into entertainment. So it's like I was always thinking of those different ways to connect it. And then like we started doing, we got into like the club that I was, when I stopped DJing, we were doing 600, 700 people a night every Friday night. And we would bring in some pretty big artists like Big Boy from Outkast. And what I would do is I would bring in and have the artists I was working with open for these big acts, because then they would have a larger audience. So that was kind of like my plan of attack, doing that. So we were able to build a lot of relationships and within that industry. And then 2011, everything kind of just, I DJ'd up until about 2013, 2014. And I have a 17-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And there was just this thing where the people in the club and the bar, they were closer to my child's age than my age. So it was like, I'm not going to be the guy that they're like, old guy in here, like it's more for the younger scene. And I mean, not that 40's old, but it's still, like when there's people that are in there that could be your kids, it's kind of just creepy. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was creepy. It worked for some people. I don't know. I didn't want to be the guy that didn't know when to leave the party. You know what I mean? So, and coming out of that, it was kind of like, I've done a ton of music videos. I've done a ton of weddings. I've done a ton of promotional videos for businesses and different things like that. And going into 2015, it was kind of like, well, it doesn't matter how great any of those things are if like there's not going to be someone, a studio or a producer that says, man, that's a great wedding or a music video you shot. Here's $1 million to make, here's $1 million budget to make a film. This is, it's not going to happen. Even though I had the experience, I didn't have the resume that said I could do narrative production or narrative work. And at the time I was about either 34 going on 35 or 35 at the time. And at that age, and you have a house, wife, kids, and all those things, it's like, I can't quit and go be a production assistant and do the ground up movement. That time had passed in my life. I did my internship. I had paid my dues. It may be in a different market or section of entertainment, but I wrote a script with a good friend of mine, and then we did like a crowdfunding campaign, and we raised the funds to do it. And I said, it's going to tell me whether or not I love to do it or I hate it. And, it was the bug. And after that, it kind of, we had a very successful run with doing my first short, which was like a 32-minute runtime. And we had a big red carpet premiere, and it's, we released it on Amazon, and we did Blu-ray sales. And I mean, everything you would ever think about releasing a film, we really try to encompass it maybe on a much smaller level, but it was still such an amazing experience to have people volunteer their time and effort and resources to help me make a film. And then since then, it's just kind of catapulted from there.
Looking at your bio, it's such a natural progression as you went into one field of media into another. There, like you said, there's definitely a smaller part that fits into a bigger part.
Yeah, it really was. It was. I think that's what, like, when I started my journey, and like, well, I'll say I started it like maybe, at the beginning with my internship, and that's really when things started coming into play. But at the time, had you asked me, do you think you'll be directing movies in 15 years? The answer probably would have been no, just because I never thought I would have that skill set or the knowledge or the know-how. I've always loved film and movies, and I love storytelling, and I've probably seen 2,000 movies in my lifetime. And at the time, I never thought that was like a real possibility. And I think it just had a gradual way of, I feel like people fall into their lane eventually in life, whether we plan for it or not. You kind of just gravitate towards what you're supposed to be doing, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Part of your transition was your work in television as well.
With the proposal, it's really where I wouldn't say like working in like I've done some camera work for some local channels and stuff like that here. But really it was the proposal where I wouldn't say it was necessarily work in television, but we did get featured and did a lot of interviews like globally, like, and to this day we still are getting the requests are coming from like overseas, and I guess it just takes time for it to circle the globe or whatever, but people are still licensing the footage, and we'll still do interviews. MSNBC did a special on it back when everything happened, and it was definitely game changing.
Sure.
As far as like doing that type of thing, because like going viral back then, it's not like anything can go viral now. It just has to be dumb enough for people to say this is crazy and they share it. This, when we uploaded it, you couldn't even upload a video to Facebook. YouTube was the only platform that you could hold a video on. And it was great. Like now, and this is going a little off topic, but like now Facebook, you won't get the visibility sharing a YouTube link the same way you would as if you uploaded a video natively into Facebook, because every social media platform's goal is to keep you on that platform. They're not going to heavily push unless you're paying for that push by boosting a post or whatever. But if I just go on my page and I share a YouTube link, they're not going to push that or make that as visible as if I just uploaded it directly, because they don't want to send traffic. They don't want to send people off their platform. They want to keep them in their platform because that's where their advertising dollars come in.
Okay. And by the way, the proposal that Michael is referring to was a video called The World's Greatest Marriage Proposal.
Yes, it was a little arrogant, but we felt like it made a statement. And I think when you see that, especially back then, it was like, yeah, I got to click on this and see what this is about, So, and it's crazy because, obviously that was, 9 years ago. It's scary to even think I'm that old, to think that it was like that long ago, because I feel like it was just yesterday. But literally some guy just did a proposal, and hats off to him. I don't know his name. I don't know where it was done. But when this proposal came out, people started messaging me and sharing this post to my different social medias. And, they're like, looks like it was a play right out of your, it was a page out of your playbook. That was the common quote amongst people. So anytime someone does an epic surprise or a proposal, they always, my circle of people just always, they see it and then they share it with me. And, this one was actually, they this guy, he rented a theater, or I don't know if he rented a theater, how he did it. Like when I watched it, I literally was like, how on earth did he pull that off? He literally, it was like he had somebody create a version of was it Snow White? When does the the prince kiss the person? Is it Sleeping Beauty or is it Snow White or is it both?
Sleeping Beauty. Yeah.
Okay, so but he had someone create him and his soon-to-be fiance, like they intertwined it into the actual movie. And then when she woke up and the characters proposed, somebody threw a ring box. It looked like it came from the screen, and he caught it and proposed to her in the theater. Like, I was just like, I can't even wrap my mind around what just happened. Like, and I do this for a living. Like, it was mind blowing to me. I was like, I can see that the game has elevated since when I got into it in 2011, doing those types of things. But yeah, it was incredible. One that we did a couple years after that. So Matt Still, the guy, one of my partners, he's the guy that hired me to do that movie proposal. And so we had another client come in. So we kind of went into business together doing these crazy announcements and proposals. And we had a client that came to us, and we're like, how do we push this? How do we take it to the next level? And we said, let's fake a helicopter crash. And the helicopter, so we set it up to where a couple they go on a helicopter tour of Atlanta. And as they approach back to the landing, the pilot is faking an engine malfunction. So, you'll see the video. If you go and watch the video, it's rocking back and forth. It's kind of, causing, confusion amongst the people on the helicopter. And then when they land, they get out and, he kind of goes down on his knees. He's like trying to catch his breath as if he was afraid and scared for his life. And she comes over to console him. And that's when he pops the question. It was the most elaborate thing I've ever probably was a part of constructing, because I know I kind of just spilled it out real easily in like a couple sentences, but like the planning that had to go into that, like from capturing and recording the sound in a noisy helicopter to working it out with the hotel, because it was a W hotel that they had the platform on top. I mean, it was a lot. And yeah, it was, but so watch the video. You go to my YouTube channel and check out the video. It's called Proposal to Die For.
You do realize that between Sleeping Beauties and helicopter crashes, you're really upping the game for guys to propose to their women.
Yeah, that was, dude, that was our log line for the longest time. It was like making guys step up their game since 2011. That's like how we promoted the business for quite a while, because if you ever go and you read the comments that the people have left on those videos, it's just like, it's something out of it's something out of a fairy tale, because these are things that don't happen regularly. They're things that don't happen often. And being a part of creating that magic, because it's like it's crazy when you think about it, because it could be months, it could be weeks and months of planning and preparation, and then it's all for that 1 second when she catches it, and you just see because the shock is only there for like a second, like when it all starts clicking. And that's what the whole moment is about. Like when the mark figures out that, oh crap, this is what's going on, so I don't know. It sounds crazy to live for that moment, but I mean, like, for me, the people that do these and put these productions together, it's like you're a part of that person's life forever, like probably one of the more memorable moments of their life. And the crazy thing with Matt is that we built a great friendship out of doing the proposal for his now wife, and they have 2 kids, but have actually been a part of each other's lives, doing surprise announcements for all of our kids that we've had since we met. And when my youngest, Lennox, was, he actually worked with my wife to do a surprise to surprise me that we were pregnant. And my radar was so off, and it was like the craziest thing. And they did it. It's this place here called Live at the Battery, and it has it's like the world's largest LED television, and it's connected to SunTrust Stadium where the Braves play. So it's this huge sports bar. And he tricked me into thinking that we were going there to meet a proposal client, and it was all set up, and they did this huge video on the screen to surprise me that me and my wife were pregnant. It was insane.
I'm more and more I'm hearing these stories. I'm thinking like, I'm going to have to make sure that you're hiding when my anniversary comes around, because
yeah, no, it's crazy. People, that's fair. That's a very fair statement, because sometimes it's kind of like, now all the things that I've gone through up to this point, like, I have to question reality. Like, is what's happening really happening, or am I being set up? It's because honestly, when they pulled that off, it was insane to me that I had no clue what was going on. And they did. So yeah, you'd have to see the video. It's on my Facebook. It was insane that I didn't even, when you do that stuff for a living, it's kind of like you kind of can smell it out or whiff it out, but it was like they did such a great job. But I think they also knew what they were up against, what it was going to take to sucker me into it, And the crazy thing is they did it the day after the big McGregor Mayweather fight, right? So, and we had a huge fight party at my house, and Matt and his wife were there. We had all these people in here. We had probably like 40 or 50 people at our house for the fight. And, you're with friends and family, you're drinking, having a party. We had our business meeting in the morning, and to meet this client, he was coming in from Florida for this proposal, and I was in Hangover City. We were literally going to the venue, and I was like, Matt, you're going to have to do all the talking, man. I'm just, I'm here for support, like, whatever. And then the whole table got flipped on me. Like, it was crazy.
So I want to talk a little bit about your movie, but tell me some of the other media work that you've done that we haven't touched on. I'm sure there's probably a couple more little things to fill in the gaps.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, besides like the narrative work, my company, we do a lot of marketing, branding, and promotional type commercials and spots for businesses that are local here to the area. One of our clients, Bubalo Medical, we just wrapped up a huge campaign for them at the end of last year that was pertaining to a wide variety of their services that they offer, in addition to doing some web design and development for some stem cell research. It gets really, really broad in the media that we touch, because we live in a world now where media and content is king. So every business is a brand, and every business now needs these elements to survive in the marketplace, because that's what's driving the marketplace. So if you don't, if you're not capitalizing on that, I was speaking with a client today, or a potential client, and they're like, I bartered service for someone to do my web design, and now my SEO's tanked, and what can I do? What are some options? Because what I like to do is, I don't like to, I'm not someone that, like, you just come to me and get a service and then at the end of that, if we're done. Like when I work with business owners, because I am an entrepreneur and a small business owner. So what I want to do is become a partner with that person and help them get through a challenge of media. Because if you do HVAC for a living, media is the last thing from your radar. You know what I mean? So we had a really good conversation though, because it's like, let's talk about what it takes to stand out in a competitive or saturated market when nobody knows what, as a person, I don't really know what. All I know is how to turn on the air conditioning, and I know how to turn on the heat. So my thing when I have these consultations is like, you have to become an advocate in your industry, whatever that is. You have to bridge the gap, and a lot of times that just consists of giving people something of value with no expectation in return. Like, if you get on Facebook and you start sharing tips and tricks of your trade with no expectation of people hiring you, but you could even go the distance of saying, listen, let me give you some tips and tricks of how not to have to call me and hire me, because now you're building this bridge of trust within people in your community. You're constantly planting those seeds. And I think that's what the difference is for businesses, because it's worked in my plan. You know what I mean? Like, the fact that my clients can call or text me any time of the day with an issue, a question, I'm going to have a solution to them within, a reasonable amount of time, depending upon what, 2 a.m. it might be in the morning, but it'll be the first thing I address. So those are the things that kind of fill in the gaps when I'm not on a movie set or, pursuing the passion of filmmaking.
Let's talk about your new movie that you're working on.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, it is called The E-Listers.
The E-Listers, yes. And the E-Listers, Life in the Backlane is about the very unusual lives of the background extras in movies. It was geniusly written by Edward Reed, who is the lead and executive producer over the project that brought me on to direct and handle the production and post-production of the film. I just love this film, even if it's one of those things when I watch the edit, it's one of those things where I look at it and I feel like it's too good to have been like I shouldn't have had anything to do with this. Like it's almost a surreal moment. And I think when you tell stories for a living, it's super easy to get caught up in being compared to everything that has been created before you. So there's always a challenge in like, how do you make this different? How do you not get compared? How do you like create your own lane and say that this is mine, this is what we did. And I think we did that with this film, just because there's nothing even close to it that's out there. And it tells a great story of the underdog, which is the background actor, because essentially the way they're looked at is they're like third-class citizens in Hollywood, right? They're the necessity that's unwanted, because you can't make films without extras, but they're also third-class citizens when they're on set. Like they don't the same things as the cast and the main the crew and the main cast get. So we did a very good job of highlighting that struggle, and it's a subculture. And it's almost like we have a scene that's like it's a 7.5 minute oneer, and it kind of just covers what all of it's almost like high school in the cafeteria, and you have everybody in cliques. There's cliques, but it's not like a jock clique and popular clique. It's just like very oddball cliques. Like they have one called the campers, and the campers are the people that come prepared, and they have like the most comfortable fold out chairs, and they have coolers, and they're ready for their 16 hours in holding before they can get on set. and we just go through all these different stereotypes, and the feedback that we've gotten from those clips is that it's scary how on point we were able to tell the story with those characters. And it's like basically it's like Inception. We made a movie about making a movie about extras with extras. So it's like Inception. It's like a rabbit hole. So it was interesting.
I'll tell you a story about a movie extra. This is from a number of years ago. I went to the movies with a bunch of my friends, and the name of the movie was called Strange Invaders with an actor named Paul Lamont. And it was like a tribute to the 1950s sci-fi movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a scene where Paul Lamont goes to a newsstand, and I guess he's in the city. And I look, and it just flashed in my brain, the guy working at the newsstand was my uncle.
Wow. Like, he was for real?
For real.
Oh, he didn't look like your uncle. He was your uncle.
He was my uncle. So I'm like, my uncle's in that movie. And my friends are looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he was the guy in the newsstand. I couldn't concentrate on the movie until the end. So then we called him.
How are you? And how is it that that's the way you find out about it? Like, no, you should have known, like, hey guys, I was in a movie, it's out, hey, look for me, because that's what people do now. Like, that's crazy and that's the way you found out. Like, you didn't even know he was doing like background work or anything like that. That's crazy.
We got home, and this is my mom's brother. So my mom was home, and I'm like, I just saw Uncle Vinnie in a movie. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, call him. So wait
a minute. So his mom, didn't even, like, nobody knew that he was.
He said that the film crew had gone around filming a couple of shots, and he said most of them they got rid of it. And he said for whatever reason they kept the shot of me at the newsstand.
Wow, that has got it. Yeah, and I'm sure everybody you're with is like, okay, great, we just want to watch the movie, right? Like no one was nearly as interested in it as you were, right? Like. That's insane. Yeah. So, and he was super nonchalant about it, right? He's just like, yeah.
Because I said,
that's funny.
When we called him, and I said, is there something you want to tell me? And he's like, what? And I said, about a movie, perhaps? And he just started laughing. He said, oh yeah, that.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I get, well, he's modest, right? He didn't feel like he needed to brag about it, because I can tell you a lot of times, like, what happens with the in the extras world is that they're notorious for like if their scene comes up that they were a background in, like they take a picture of it with their phone and then they post it, but it's not like, it's usually out of focus because it's the background, right? And then it's like zoomed in, so it's like most of the time they're not going to be modest like your uncle was. They're going to want to tell everybody about it. Like, you would know it was coming. Like, you would have known if he was your typical background, you would have known that he was in that movie way before you bought your ticket for it.
My friend was in a Woody Allen movie, and you don't see him, but you hear his voice at like the last 10 minutes of the movie. And he's like, that's me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They will let you know it. I promise. That's part of the culture. And you know what? Here's the thing, and I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing, because at the end of the day, it is a very cool thing to be a part of it. Because I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and I was like, think about this. Think about how important the role is of background artists. And the example, imagine if we watched Karate Kid and there was nobody in the stands during the tournament when he did the crane kick. Do you think it would fall do you think it would have the same energy if there was just like Daniel's mom and his girlfriend on the side, like two claps like that? I mean, these things, think about Titanic. think about if there was no extras in Titanic and you just had like Jack and Rose on the boat with their families and that was it. Like extras can make or break your film. And I don't think it's unfortunate that they don't get the credit they deserve. And that's really why we've made this film, because it's about the underdog making it and showing the importance of what these guys do. Like it's dedication. It's not an easy job. You got to have patience to be on set for 16 hours to go into a set that films for 15 minutes and then you're done for the day. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I'm sure some of the biggest names in Hollywood were probably extras in some movie at some point, or little bit part actors who, may have had a single line, like, here's your paper, and then walking off.
Here's the thing. And this is what I would tell anybody. Like, even if you don't have, say you don't have an interest at all in acting, right? Like acting is not your thing, but say you do have an interest in production. And I think taking time, like I'm a self-taught person. Like I've never went to school for my profession. I never took classes. I went to YouTube University and the Internet University and trial and error university. Those are the places I learned my craft. And had the industry been booming the way it is now, when I first got started, I would have spent a lot of time on set as an extra, because you're just in the environment and you can be observant to how a set is ran and how they're making decisions, because you're in the mix of it. So it's almost like you're getting paid for the education piece. Like if you want to learn how sets run, and I mean, you're in there, you're networking. It's just, you got to, I think in today's day and age, you just have to be creative about how you create your path. And I think that one is overlooked for people. Like I have one of Andre, he's a great friend and he's a part of my team. And his passion is he wants to be an actor. But he started volunteering as a set PA on people's sets, like when we first met, like about a year ago. And like, that was his in to get to meet people. Cause like, if you get in there and you perform well and you're memorable, people remember that. And then it's like, he's getting to know how everything works from a production standpoint so he can be a more effective actor. So it's an interesting way. Like the thing about it is like, what's crazy about this particular industry, and I'll just say entertainment as a whole, is like, there is no blueprint. There is no one way to success. Like everybody's story is completely different. That's why it's like, you can't, there's like, you can hear how someone else did it, but that is probably not going to be the way that it works for you. You just have to be open-minded into the way of how you get there. It's kind of like the same thing. Like when you decided to do a podcast, I mean, what was your initial thought? Like why you wanted to do it?
Yeah, it was just the fact that I really did it because I enjoyed listening. So I said, well, he said something I could probably get into. And I start small. I mean, I don't have a big studio or anything like that. It's just
but
me
that's
and my
the great
computer
thing
and a
about
mic.
And that's the great thing about technology, is that you don't need those things anymore. Like literally you can, I mean, at the end of the day, what's a podcast? It's like a radio show, right? Like,
Right.
And there is such a wide variety. And that's what's so great, is because there's a niche market for everything. You can find everything out there. And it's better than listening to the same 4 songs on the radio 12 hours a day if you're in the car, like it's just like, I made this commitment to myself about 18 months to 2 years ago. And it was I felt like in order to be great, I had to be obsessed with my passion. Like, so I kind of coined the term, the dream over everything. And it wasn't just about the work. It was about the mentality of how I tackled everything from a day-to-day. So it's like, I'm wiping out everything superficial. If it doesn't support the dream, then it has no space in my life. So I sold. I had a beautiful Lexus F Sport. I sold it. I bought a cargo van. I drive a cargo van as my day-to-day vehicle. I don't have it's not just my production van when I have productions. It's what I drive all the time. And then last May, I bought, I hustled up to buy a 2,100 square foot shell of a very old building from the 1950s. And we've been renovating it, and we're about to open in about 3 weeks. And it was all about that dream over everything. So part of that process was, as much as I love music, it was the hardest thing for me to let go of the way I did, because I said, if I'm going to spend 5 minutes in the car or 45 minutes in the car, I'm going to consume podcasts that align with my dream. So it's like bringing in a lot of different filmmaker podcasts and learning. I felt like if I'm going to spend time in the car, I should be learning. And if I can't be, if I'm driving, the only thing I can do is listen. And that's really been my attitude for strongly for the past 18 months. That's what the space in my head has been and then I if I veer off and I start listening to I'm like, oh, music, and I'm like, oh, that was nice, and it was just nope, that's not focused, because you don't get to a great place by being mediocre or half-assing it. You have to give it 1,000%, so that's kind of my space on that. So are we ready for my shameless promotion?
The mic is all yours.
Okay, excellent. So my shameless promotion would be for everyone to go to elistermovie.com, watch the trailer, watch the sneak peek. It's a 7-minute sneak peek of the E-Listers. Like it on Facebook. We are having a huge premiere, red carpet premiere here in Atlanta on the 12th. But the great thing is, on the 13th, the day after, it will be available for purchase or rental on Amazon. So it will be available to the world the day after. But really, at the end of the day, anything, if people go out, check it out, like it, dislike it, tell me why you hate it. I love the negative feedback more than the positive feedback, because at the end of the day, it helps me grow as a filmmaker. So if it sucks, dude, this sucks, give it a thumbs down on YouTube and tell me it sucks and why it sucks, so I don't make that mistake in the future. At the end of the day, as a storyteller, all you want is for people to listen and watch your stories. So any type of interaction is great interaction.
And if, with your permission, I'd like to share the link to the trailer on my social media. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Share it, text it to your friends and family. I mean, whoever, might be interested, definitely, since you have some background extras in the family that weren't necessarily as proud of it, there you go. You just share it with everybody. That's all I can say.
Okay. So the movie is called The E-Listers. He is a multimedia man, Mr. Michael Mueller. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
A very special thanks to Mr. Michael Mueller for coming on down to the Sherpa Screening Room. I'm Jim the Podcast Sherpa, and I really appreciate you guys spending time with us again. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at Sherpalution on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can check out all our episodes at Sherpalution.com. Next week, it's the season finale, just about the penultimate episode with Christopher Carter from Where I Sit. And guess what? I will be doing an interview on Chris's show eventually, too. You'll be hearing that. Anyway, viva la Sherpalution, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Take it, Mr. Bruce.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Yo, come back now, you hear?